So we finally have the official Avengers 4 trailer, officially Avengers Endgame. And although this is only a teaser trailer, it was pretty intense. And of course, we finally got the official title. They waited all the way until the first teaser trailer came out, but we finally got it, Avengers Endgame. So just to clarify, this is my personal breakdown. I have actually done an analysis with a special guest that I'll be doing in a separate video as well. But this is my personal breakdown, so let's just jump right into it. So we start with a very eerie scene with Iron Man's helmet just destroyed. This of course is the result from his fight with Thanos on Titan, and he used a good amount of his nanobots up when he fought him, as we saw in Infinity War. It starts with him turning it on, tapping on it to see if it's working, saying, "Is this thing on?" because he's recording a message for Pepper. If you notice that a blue light from the helmet sort of scans over him, so maybe this is a video recording, but no doubt that he is recording a message to Pepper here. And it's really sad because he's stranded in space right now. He's on Star-Lord's ship, which actually answers a question that many people had about Infinity War, which was, are Tony and Nebula actually stuck on Titan, or was Star-Lord's ship still there? A lot of people thought that since Thanos threw the moon at it, or part of the moon at Titan, that maybe the ship was destroyed. It clearly was not, because he's on it now. Nebula is there too. We find that out in a later scene, but as of right now, she's sort of just giving him his space because he's about to die. He says that food and water ran out 4 days ago, and his oxygen supply will run out tomorrow. So for Tony, this is it. This is the end of the line for him. And it shows him staring off into space, just thinking about everything that's happened. And of course, at the end, the last thing he thinks about is Pepper, his fiance, the love of his life. So this is Tony giving up. He just got crushed by Thanos. Thanos performed the snap, and then Tony got stranded in space. He's just run out of food, and he's just run out of water, and he's going to run out of oxygen, and he's going to die. So he records his final message to Pepper, his fiance, and then he turns it off and accepts his fate. So that's pretty much the first minute of the trailer, and it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be heavy. It's supposed to be intense, because the last thing that happened was the snap. The Avengers lost, Thanos won. So Avengers Infinity War ends with, and Avengers Endgame starts with, the defeat of the Avengers. Then of course we have the Marvel Studios logo, and of course it turns to dust. And then we see the Thanos Scarecrow, and we actually saw this at the end of Avengers Infinity War. And this is actually sort of a tribute to the comics, because in the Infinity Gauntlet saga, when Thanos is defeated, he goes and becomes Farmer Thanos, and he puts his armor on a Scarecrow in an attempt to scare anybody who may come. And then we kind of see Thanos. It doesn't completely show us Thanos. What it really focuses on here is the Infinity Gauntlet. Because if you take a look at the Infinity Gauntlet, you can notice that it is still damaged from the snap. We know the gauntlet is permanently damaged. The Russo brothers have said this themselves. They said that there was a cost to using the Infinity Gauntlet and performing the snap, and it permanently damaged Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. The Russo brothers have also confirmed that this is in fact a different planet. It's Titan 2, a new home for Thanos. So Thanos is on a different planet, and he and the Infinity Gauntlet are permanently damaged right now. Then we cut to the Avengers facility, where Black Widow is saying that Thanos did exactly what he said he was going to do. He wiped out 50% of all living creatures. And you can see Natasha sort of choke up when she says that, and you can see Steve crying, because not only did they just lose people that they loved, but they lost as the Avengers. They weren't able to prevent the snap. They weren't able to prevent half of the universe being wiped away from existence. And then we have this scene right here where Bruce Banner is looking at a holograph screen, and it shows missing persons, and you see Scott Lang, and you also see Shuri. Now you can notice that those red letters to the bottom right of each picture says missing. This is kind of interesting because they don't really know where these heroes are. They don't know where Scott Lang is because he wasn't in the events of Infinity War. But it's really interesting that Shuri is on there, because they were in Wakanda and she was in Wakanda too. And the Russo brothers at one point in time said that she did in fact survive the snap. But a good majority of the Avengers were in Wakanda. Shuri was helping them. They all met Shuri. So did she fall victim to the snap, or did she perhaps run away somewhere for whatever reason? Because the Russo brothers did say that she survived, but that could always change. There was a lot of filming that happened in between when they said she survived and the teaser trailer. But then you can see that her picture actually changes to Peter Parker. It's very curious that they have Peter Parker up there, because this is clearly a missing Avengers profile list here, but I wasn't exactly sure if any of the remaining Avengers actually knew Spider-Man was Peter Parker. Clearly, they must have known or somehow found out because he's there. But they obviously do not know where he is because he's on their missing persons list. Then we see a clip of an empty Avengers headquarters. Then we see Thor because he's back on Earth now because he went and got Stormbreaker, came back, fought the Battle of Wakanda, almost killed Thanos, and now he's with the rest of the Avengers. So now we hear Steve Rogers' voice in the background saying, "We lost, all of us." And then we have this scene right here with Nebula. She's on the ship with Tony, and as you can see here, she kind of enters the room that Tony's in very slowly, very cautiously. And she puts her hand on his shoulder right as Steve Rogers says, "We lost friends." Now Steve's not on the ship, that's just narration, but look at the way that she moves her hand off of his shoulder. She removes it like he's dead, like he's gone. And she enters the room sort of like she doesn't know if he's going to be dead or alive. So I think there's a possibility that Tony may actually die in the beginning of this movie, because Nebula is pretty much half machine. Thanos ripped a good majority of her body parts out and replaced them with mechanical body parts, so she can most likely survive without oxygen and without food. So this isn't the end for her, it's the end for Tony. And then we get our first look at Ronan. And it's interesting that they show him, as Steve Rogers says, we lost family and we lost a part of ourselves. Because in the comics, Hawkeye becomes Ronan when Steve Rogers dies. In this tragedy, Clint gives up his Hawkeye persona and becomes Ronan. So my guess is, and I've been saying this for a while in a few different videos, is that Clint's family fell victim to the snap. They got wiped away. And during the tragedy of losing his family, not only did he lose his family, but he did lose a part of himself, and then he picks up the persona of Ronan. So from what we know, he is in Japan trying to infiltrate the Yakuza. And as you can see, Natasha is there. She clearly went out looking for him, and it seems like she found him right as he killed a bunch of people. So as you can see, Clint, or Ronan, is not playing around in this movie. We then cut to this scene with Black Widow and Captain America, and Steve is staring at a picture of Peggy. And notice that he's wearing his uniform from Captain America the Winter Soldier. Natasha says, "This is gonna work, Steve," and he says, "I know it is, because I don't know what I'm gonna do if it doesn't." This could be pointing to time travel. The old picture, the old uniform, and the fact that Ant-Man shows up in another scene in the trailer. Because remember that the sequences that they show you in the trailer are not necessarily the sequences that are in the movie. In fact, more often than not, they're not. They're out of order. So Ant-Man could have told them about a time vortex that he discovered inside of the quantum realm, and they could have decided that that's how they're going to undo the snap. Time travel. And look at how they revealed the title. Notice how a bunch of different rocks are being put back together to make the A and make the title Endgame. It looks like the logo and the title were broken, were smashed into pieces, and time is being reversed to have them come back together. It clearly looks like time is rewinding and it's coming back together. And if you notice, there is a circle, a ring going around it, and as it comes back together, it's spinning. This could perhaps be a portal entrance to the quantum realm, because again, a time vortex was mentioned inside of the quantum realm in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the last time we saw Scott Lang, he was stuck inside of the quantum realm.
That's me. Can you buzz me in?
So whether or not he gets out through a time vortex, he definitely knows about the time vortex. And when he goes and finds Steve and Natasha, they'll of course tell him what happened and explain Thanos' snap to him, in which he will probably mention the time vortex, as that's probably going to be their only option to defeat Thanos, is to go back in time. So I really think that that's what we're seeing here. The logo was shattered and time is being reversed, and that's what makes it come back together. And then in the last scene, we have Ant-Man arriving to the Avengers facility. He seems really panicked because he most likely just got out of the quantum realm. And once he got out, he probably couldn't find anybody. Hope, Janet, and Dr. Pym are all gone. Cassie might be gone, Luis might be gone. Everybody that he knows probably is gone. Of course, half of the population of Earth is gone, so he'll notice once he gets out in the city. And once he notices, the first place he'll head is of course the Avengers facility. And clearly Steve and Natasha thought he fell victim to the snap. They thought he was dusted away because they are super shocked to see him. Steve even asks if it's an old message, but it's not, it's current, and he's at the front gate of the Avengers facility. What's interesting is that Scott mentions 3 years ago, he mentions the airport fight in Germany. Well, this debunks the rumor that Avengers Endgame takes place 5 years after the snap. And especially because we see Tony stranded in space. It's not 5 years later, he's not on Earth or anywhere else. Him and Nebula leave Titan to try and find the closest planet with civilization on it, which clearly they don't find because Tony's about to die. But perhaps Pepper Potts comes and rescues him. We know that she's going to be donning the rescue armor in Avengers Endgame, so perhaps when Tony turns on his helmet, she is somehow able to track his location. So maybe she puts on the rescue armor because she goes and rescues Tony. So, Avengers Endgame does not take place 5 years into the future, it takes place right after the snap. So, that is it for my breakdown of Avengers Endgame. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoyed the teaser trailer. I thought it was awesome. And be sure to look out for my next video coming out tonight. I'll be doing an in-depth analysis of the trailer with a very special guest.